Hello YouTube, this is Finch. He's on Driftweek and I want to share his experience with you guys. He's going to tell you all about how he ended up in a C6 Z06 and it was not on purpose, and it wasn't even until Driftweek already started that he bought this car. So that means he was doing one car for Driftweek, prepped the whole thing, did all this crazy stuff. He can tell you the quick story of that. Maybe just like a minute or two about that car, maybe 3, because it's a long story about that car.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then jump into this car and explain what it is, how good it is, if he likes it, and all that stuff. Go.
100%.
Tell me.
The original concept was I had this BMW M235i on a dolly in my shop, and it was just kind of in the way, and use it kind of to store parts on and stuff like that. It just had been sitting there, and it's been something we wanted to build, take a different direction with than what we had discussed, you know, that I had originally intended for the car.
Just to fill this in, he was building a Formula D car out of this thing. He has 2 of them, and he was going to repurpose it into a Driftweek car. Is that accurate?
So basically that's what it was. So we hadn't taken like the motor or anything out. The suspension was out of it, front end was off of it, but the motor and interior, most of it was intact, and it was a 2016 M235i with about 14,000 miles on it. So this has got to be a pretty good Driftweek candidate. I was like, you know what? Let's just try to get this thing together, and let's make it to Driftweek. We've got time, and I was wrong. It didn't work out. It was a lot of work. Parts are scattered around the shop. Things are missing. We have to order things from BMW. They're either in stock and we can get them in 1 to 2 days, or they're coming from Germany and it's 4 to 6 weeks. Not a lot of options there. So we went to work, and unfortunately, like with a lot of things, is you don't know what you need until you're there. You got to be assembling it to figure it out, and we have to be able to get to those sections. And we want to do a lot of work to it. You know, we had a upgraded turbo, intercooler, charge pipe, triple pass radiator. We did a bunch of work there. Interior, we had like bucket seats, like power bucket seats. We did a roll bar, rear seat delete. Outside, I had found a wide body kit from a company in Russia called like Krotov. And so like this is where like things like it was kind of like an idea, and then things kind of started to just fall in place, because we had 2 major issues with the car that we felt. Is I had WiseFab kits already for these cars, as I had intended on building them for Formula Drift, but the WiseFab kits weren't actually for the car. They were for like an E90. We were just kind of told that, well, everybody customizes it. Well, okay, well, I didn't know that. So we had to customize a lot of stuff, but we had reached out to WiseFab when we started the project, said, hey, this is what we're doing. And they said, actually, we're developing a F22 specific kit this time around. So I was like, oh, well, send me that. And then this company in Russia had just released like this F22 wide body kit, ABS plastic. It was $1,000 shipped to my door from Russia. Wide fenders, bumper extensions, rear wing, side skirt extensions, like a whole big kit. And I was like, well, you know, $1,000 shipped. Like usually when something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. But in this case, it arrives, and I'm like, it fits like a glove. Everything fits. I'm like, oh, we're gonna do this. We're going to do this. So we went to work, and we finally got everything together. We had to get some things painted and stuff towards the end, and we're kind of scrambling. We finally get the car running. We finally get it on the ground. We get it aligned. We feel like everything's going smooth, and then we start coding. And I knew coding would be challenging. I didn't know it would be this challenging to code things. I went a little too far removing things. I was kind of told that it would be easy to code some things out. You just kind of go in there, you select the code, whatever's missing, you just delete it. It's, you know, there's like Pro Tool, there's a few different things that you could use for this. I was told it wouldn't be very challenging. That was wrong. I had deleted way too many things. I deleted airbags, seat belts, you know, a sunroof. I put a carbon fiber roof skin on, so we deleted sunroof. I mean, just the list goes on, like parking sensors. I mean, I did delete a lot of things out of this car, and it wound up being very difficult to code everything out.
How can the sunroof take out the car, or the parking sensors, or things like that?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what took the car out. So I'm assuming some of it is coding related. So we had got the car on the ground, we got it aligned. We immediately started noticing problems. and I blew out my axles. The car was just super dumped in the rear. I didn't realize how bad it was. I had run into some issues with the axles, and I felt like I needed custom axles. I might not have, but I was trying to find a combination that worked because it was like E90 base suspension in the rear still. So I had opted to get, if I was going to get custom axles made and spent that money, I would save a lot of money if I put a 48.8 in it. So that was like a new... Well,
I'm just like laughing. I'm like, you're like, oh, I did this, and then like each step snowballs.
I didn't think it would be too difficult, right? So it wound up being, I wound up getting a mount kit from a company that wasn't designed for that car, but I was told like the front mounts would work. I had to figure something out for the back, and the diff was just mounted too low, and it made the axle angles really bad. And then what actually made the car axle angles really bad was the car was so dumped, because I think the suspension kit that I had didn't really kind of factor in the fact that the roll center correction that we would have in the Wise Fab. So I actually needed a much longer spring than what I was provided with. And like I said, it was just one of those things where like everybody's very helpful, and all these companies were incredible to deal with. You know, like I bought the pressure coils from Feel. They were incredible. They sent them back. We'll send you another set. And like they were working with me, I just ran out of time, you know? And I'm sure when I go home, they're going to work with me on finding the actual solution for whatever this is. And same with Wise Fab and things like that. So it's just, they're just like, hey, we've genuinely just never done this. This is like, nobody's doing this. So it was one of those types of situations where, like I said, I felt like the 48.8 would be a little bit more cost effective or similar cost because a 48.8 doesn't cost anything. And then a clutch type LSD from with carbon fiber clutch disc from Ford Performance is like $240 shipped to your door.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like a two-way LSD for that BMW would have been, or like 1.5 with some kind of clutch type LSD would have been $2,000 minimum. You know, the ring and pinion I wanted was like $1,300. You know, it's like this. I'm like, okay, this is stupid. You know, I don't want to deal with this. I don't know what gear ratio I want. This is ridiculous. Just put an 8.8 in. Like, just forget about it, right? So, so that just didn't work out. So, like, when I had spoken to you a couple days prior to the event starting, I was like, or even the night of the event starting, you know, I was like, I'm gonna get this fixed. So I pulled the diff down. I made all new mounts. I have a machine shop, so we have access to I have a lot of equipment at my disposal. So we start making stuff. We get the diff moved up. Axles, we use Gorilla Tape to like for axle boots as we blew the seals out. So that was like, oh, this is gonna work. And then yeah, that's when we realized that the springs we had were just too short. We were out of adjustment. We have some of like the longest springs that Swift even offers. They offer one that's like 1 inch longer that we could go to, but I have to make a whole entirely new perch. We were gonna try to send it anyways. Fuck it. So I have actually springs that I had ordered. They're at Swift. I never picked them up. So we were gonna drive the car out to Swift, pick up the springs. We were gonna be a day late to the event. And then I took the car out and I was like, oh, let's just test it real quick. Do it in second gear, pitch it sideways in a somewhere I was allowed to be on, but you know, anyways, it just kind of cut out. And then what I had realized is I was like, oh shit, I don't even have a speedo. I didn't even notice it. And then I don't even have, it's not displaying like what gear I'm in. And I was like, oh shit. So then that's when I realized, like, throughout the coding and everything like that like I had lost some things too. And then that's when like it kind of became a slippery slope where like it would just go into limp mode. And then I was like, okay, I really got a lot of coding to do here. And I have no idea how long this is going to take, where we're at. And then, you know, obviously my buddy Nikolai flew out from Washington to kind of go on this journey with me. And we were both kind of like, I was kind of like, we really got to start thinking about plan B. And, you know, we kind of went back and forth. He's like, no, we're going to get this. And it was like, yeah. And then finally, like, yeah, when we missed the first day at Horse Thief, I was like, plan B. So we started looking for cars. I was like, look, man, like, I really want to have this experience with Driftweek. I've been watching it. It's just one of those things where, like, sometimes in life, like, you watch things and you're like, man, I wish I could do that, you know? But, like, sometimes maybe you can. Maybe you just, like, we hesitate, you know, or something, you know? I felt like that's what I did with Driftweek, you know, in previous ones where I hesitated, you know? Not to derail too much, but, like there was actually one time, like, you know, I kind of went through the same thing, like where, remember you guys like had those like floods there in like Houston, right? It was crazy. And like I was sitting there with my partner at the time. He's like, man, I really wish we could help. And it was just like, why can't we? You know, let's just go. So we loaded up my van, bought a boat, Like, I had guys go pick up supplies, load it. We drove out there. I flew a bunch of people out there, and we helped. It's like, why can't, like, and that really changed my perspective on things. Like, why can't we do this? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I was like, you know, like, oh, we can't make it. Like, why can't we? Let's just buy a car. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's just whatever it is. Like, I got to do whatever it takes to be there. You know, and it's keeping your word too. You know, like, I had made an obligation to be here and show up, and I was like, hey, Aaron, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up in a legit car. Like, it's going to be all one color. I have another Corvette. A shop was building a cage for, and they just didn't finish it. And the time frame that said they were going to, they didn't really touch it. I could have brought that car here. The panels were 2 different colors. That's not the agreement that I made. You know what I'm saying? When I signed up.
It would have been easier to spray paint a car than like to get a whole nother car.
Yeah, but
he's like, yeah, but I need a Z06.
It's part of the experience too. I mean, obviously, as long as I don't destroy it, I'm not going to devalue it too much. So if it was a situation where I had to get back out of it,
we all lie to ourselves.
You know, everybody has to find a way to justify things, and I have my ways of justifying things to myself, and other people have ways of, you know, and we figure it out. But at the end of the day, you know, like I said, maybe that's what I tell myself to make myself feel better about the fact that I bought my 4th Corvette to go to Drift event. When if I would have just not built the 2 Series and just spent a week on something else, instead of 2 months, I would have been here in the same capacity. But like I said, it's the journey, it's the experience.
This car's sweet though.
Do not plan anything in life. I didn't book hotels out here. I don't do anything like that. Like I just like for me, like that's like the journey. You know what I'm saying? Like if everything's planned out, I know exactly where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do. It's not the same. Because you're expecting things to happen versus figuring them out, whatever they are.
So you bought this car.
So I bought this car. I literally.
It was on the day of the first day of Horse Thief, or the second day?
It was the day of. So I found the car finally on Facebook. It had just gotten posted. And I went to go look at it, but the guy had a lien on it, so I couldn't buy it. So Saturday, I was able to meet him at the bank, and he was still unsure. He had a friend that had a ZR1 for sale, and he was only going to sell that if he could buy this other car. So, like, we went to bed that night. We had no idea if we were even going to get this car. I woke up in the morning, he was like, meet me at the bank, and I was like, fuck, thank God. We drove to the bank, paid him for the car, got the title paid off, drove straight back to my house. I called up another buddy, and I was like, hey, look, I've got a Corvette here that's 2 different colors. It's got some angle kit on it. It's got a bucket seat in it and stuff like that. And that stuff needs to come out of that car and come in here. The 3 of us just went to town and got the thing done. I have another buddy, Alex, that has an alignment shop, does all my alignments. He took the car in pretty late at night, you know. We wound up picking the car up about like 11:30 at night from the alignment shop, so we stayed late, knocked it out, and just kind of everything just started coming together. And we had this whole plan, like we were going to catch up with you guys, we were going to throw the car in the trailer, and then it was like, wait a second, like it kind of clicked. I was like, if I have a fucking trailer in Arizona, the trailer's got to come with me to California. I was like, no, this is Drift Week. Maybe I'm not making the drive from California to Arizona, but I have to physically drive the car to Arizona. And we just we slammed it out. We were replacing things like the next morning. Like we had an oxygen sensor. I think we had to finish the next morning, and then we booked it straight to Arizona. That's why we didn't make it to Arizona until like 7:30ish. And I know the track went hot around 5, but we still were kind of putting things together on the car. We did run into quite a few issues. Not quite a few, but like certain things on a base model that didn't fit on a Z06. Like the eccentric lockouts didn't fit. So I'm like, fuck, I gotta I don't know what to do. Like I can't get material, I can't do anything, I'm screwed. And then we took the cams for the factory bolts, and there's 4 obviously, and then there's the bolt on the opposite side. So we take the cam, like, okay, I've got 4 of these, and they're the correct space to fit in between on the subframe to lock it out. And I was like, well, actually, I have another Z06. So we robbed 4 off that. We welded them so they were completely, like there was no hole at all.
Z06? Why didn't you bring that Z06?
Oh, this is one we had just never put together, finished putting together. It's just on my rack in my shop.
You know how ridiculous this sounds to the audience, though.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely.
Okay.
So that one I purchased from, like real quick, I purchased that one from Copart and blind, and I needed a new chassis. I had another Z06 before that.
Okay,
and,
that makes sense.
It was just real clean. I was like, I need something a little bit rougher. So I bought it. It was like a flood car, and then I get it, and it winds up having like a 450 LSX 454 built like Texas speed in it, like an RPM trans, RPM stage 4 diff, like just parts I had no idea this car had. And cranked over, everything was good. And for some reason it dawned on me that it had like water at some point, right? And that there would still be some because the car ran. So we let the car sit for 3 months, came back, and like everything the engine like rusted together. So
oh god,
it was like we just haven't had time to like to deal with it or to even think about it because I have a car problem.
How many Z06 have you had? Z06s?
4.
Okay, 4. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, it's an incredible car. I bought.
Yeah.
I may not be too much a fan of the engine, but the car itself is.
So you've made it to Phoenix now, and you get on track.
So I made it to Phoenix. I got those lockouts fixed. I welded them. I re-drilled them on my lathe, popped them on. We're locked out, got it aligned, and we make it to Arizona, and we just start driving. I haven't driven in. I've been to a couple events. Like I went in my Corvette and it didn't really work out, and I had another S13 that I'd taken to some events and I'd driven in a little bit, but like I've just had some really terrible luck where like I always break something like the first lap. Mm-hmm. That's like my thing. And I just like I hadn't really had a chance to like really drive and turn laps in probably about 14, 15 years. So this was like my first chance to like start driving again at Muscleman, and this car I purchased from this guy. I don't really know. Like, it was like just a street car for the guy, but kind of like set up more like a drag car when I had got it. It makes 622 horsepower to the wheels.
The one behind us?
Yes.
Okay.
Plenty of power. Yeah, I had driven 14, 15 years and I just had to go out and figure it out, you know. I have my buddy Nikolai with me who has had extensive experience driving. He's done a little Formula Drift, and he's drifted, you know, regularly throughout the years. Mm-hmm. So he knew what he was doing, and you know, I had friends there. Forrest was there, obviously. I got to see him, and I knew some people, you know, from kind of still hanging around the drift scene or whatever throughout the years. And yeah, I just had to kind of jump out there, and just like it was almost like my first time, you know, going to. I don't remember what my first event was, like Drift Day 4 or something. Here.
I remember being so nervous for my first drift event. And like, you know, the second or third, you don't know what's going to happen. You have no clue. Did you feel that nervousness coming on this?
I feel like I'm in such a different place in my life where like not too many things really bother me, you know, like, I wasn't so much nervous, like I guess in a way, like I was, I didn't want to, I was so excited about the experience. I didn't want to take away from anyone else's experience. Mm-hmm. And like, so like, I was like worried that like, I would like kick a bunch of dirt on the track, or I would bomb off and like kind of fuck somebody up. So I just kind of made sure I stayed clear from everybody. And then from there, like, you know, if I spit out or whatever, like I just didn't give a fuck. You know, like it was just, I'm sorry. I probably
you can say anything you want. This is YouTube.
Yeah, I have a problem with that one. I have my issues. We all do. But yeah, you know, it was really, like I said, I just didn't want to take away from anyone's experience. I don't want to get anybody's way. So, you know, I got to drive around a little bit. And then I got to, you know, Nikolai to drive. And then he kind of showed me how he did things a little bit. And then I kind of got comfortable, got settled in. And, you know, in a sense, it's a little bit like riding a bicycle, you know, like there's some aspects of it. Having the confidence, like in the car and the grip levels and things like that to really throw the car hard, you know, like in the initiation, stuff like that, took a little bit of warming up. But the car's incredibly easy to drive. It's definitely a very special car, man. Like it doesn't need much, and it definitely drives a little bit different than whatever I'm used to. But like, it's hard for me. Everyone's always like constantly asking me like, how does it feel? Like, what did you think? Like, oh man, this. I'm like, I don't know if I really remembered what my last drift car drove, you know, felt like. It's been so long, you know.
That is more car than the early D1 and FD cars you watched when you were young.
Oh, 100%, absolutely.
Isn't that nuts?
Absolutely.
It's just 100%. Like a fun car.
Man,
we're in an amazing time.
The amount of grip it makes is mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. Like how much mechanical grip the car makes. The rear, the suspension is completely stock aside from coilovers. The amount of angle, the side bite, forward bite, like everything was, like I said, there was just definitely some little things about it, like kind of figuring it out as I went. But God, the car is a riot, man. Like it is, and like I said, obviously, like maybe there's tracks where I don't need the power. And like I said, I see some of these guys with lesser power bombing around. I'm like, wow, that looks like a lot of fun, because like it kind of gives me like those vibes of like being so underpowered, like kind of back in the day. But what's it called? But like, I don't think you can ever have too much power. obviously, I think the other side of it would be like concerned like tire. I never thought that I could like turn so many laps on a tire. That's been like awesome. That's like a pain in the ass, right? Like,
you mean you're getting a lot of tire life on this trip?
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. Like you know, it's a pain in the ass having to take tires off or bring tons of tires or get tires changed. And, like the whole process, it kind of cuts into like the drifting thing. It's not the most fun thing in the world to do, but like, yeah, you turn so many laps on a set of tires. Like that's been aiding in the experience immensely as well. That's been a huge factor. So be getting tons of laps. I think towards the end there, like we were getting a lot of laps towards the end at Muscleman. Like once I got comfortable, and Nikolai was Nikolai obviously knows what the fuck he's doing. Once I got comfortable and we're up and I'm up shifting third anywhere I can, and just roasting him as hard as I could. You know, we're getting like 10 laps out of a set of tires, which is 10 to 12, which is, you know, for a car with 600 something horsepower to be standing on it in third gear around stuff and get those kinds of laps is not everywhere, obviously, but anywhere I could. We were trying. You know,
how many laps has that car done on the whole drift week so far?
You know, there's what was wow, like he's got like a counter, and he's counting every single
200
one.
And something.
Fuck, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I could tell you that I've done a lot. It's over 100. I haven't been on the track.
But the car total, how many do you think? Because there's two of you driving it.
Yeah, I would say over 100.
Okay.
We've had
combined.
We've had our fair share. You know, we've had our share of issues, which has been one actually. You know, to be honest with you, like one of the best parts of the experience. I feel like if the car didn't break at all,
it would be too easy.
Yeah, honestly, like, and I think, like I said, we had discussed this earlier, where I feel like, you know. Like stopping drifting a long time ago, like I hated working on cars. I had my own shop. I hated it.
Yeah.
And like I said, for the first time, I was able to turn a wrench, and like I was genuinely excited to put the wrench in my head. I had to like weld exhaust hangers on it. I had to go and like the shops we went to along the way. Like I know like one of the best parts of Drift Week is that you got guys like Drift HQ and stuff like that. And you have all these tools, and you have the ability to fix things right there at the track. One of the coolest things I thought was like that I left the track and I had no idea where I was. And I found people and I found shops, and I went to them and I just talked to people and told them what I was doing, and they were so blown away by what I was doing, and they just wanted to help me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like if I needed to use a welder, or I was having an issue with the car the first night of Muscleman. There's a two-step in the car. I didn't realize that it was on like all the time, and there was like a hidden button to like turn it off, and so we were like, a rev limiter was like 5,200 RPM. Obviously, the car's still fucking ridiculous at 5,200 RPM. We were just tearing it up out there. It's still hitting like third gear and just like, but I mean, we knew something was wrong. So I took it to somewhere. We pulled logs and tuner, like log in, look at my logs, like this whole thing. Like he was having the tuner was actually from Tucson, but he was in Texas. And we took it to another shop, pulled logs, and he's like, wife's like having a baby. But he was like so interested in what we were doing that like he like had to like look at my logs and like help me out, you know? Like just genuine car people that were like, wow, like you would do something like that? That is impressive. Like that's not like your normal like drift story or like whatever event that I've ever like hearing about people doing. So like he was a really a nice guy, and he helped me, and then we went to Fine Arc, and they were incredible people, and they helped us, and like I said, it's just like kind of every step along the way. Even in Apple Valley, I had a shop help us with an alignment. I blew out my alignment. You know, having some things come loose, and I had another buddy. I had a couple customers that were in like Apple Valley and stuff like that. So I had one buddy that had a Datsun like 260Z that had us build as 2J. No one needs 700 horsepower in a 260Z. It was the absolute most ridiculous thing I have some really dumb cars. I have a GTR that's maybe like 1,600 horsepower, and this 260Z scared the shit out of me. So I got to use his welder, weld exhaust hangers on, like just fixing things along the way. There was another shop at Phoenix, but after we left, we had stopped at to help me like change my oil, fix some things there. And you know, so it's like, you know, I'm like kind of reigniting with friends along the way. I'm meeting new people, making new friends. Everywhere I go, we're following each other. They're following what I'm doing on Drift Week. They're commenting on my stories. We're talking the whole time. That experience, the journey, is priceless, and that's one of like just the coolest parts. Like did I turn a lot of laps? Yeah, but you know, so a lot of guys turn a lot more laps because they're here to drive. I walked around the pit. I talked to the guy in the car next to me. I helped other people, wherever I could, you know. Like I said, I had my guys put a cylinder head together and deliver it here for a guy so that way he could continue driving. Whatever it took, you know, like all those experiences, like, were just as valuable to me as driving, you know. And so,
what
like for me,
head was that?
It was a 2JZ GTE VVTi.
For who?
Jesse.
Oh, okay.
Or yeah, whatever his last name is.
I said both names and they were like, it's Foot. And I'm like, oh.
Is it Foot?
I thought it was Foutier or something.
I think there's got to be like a way like the Canadian says it with like their accent that sounds cooler than Foot, because I feel like Foot is just not doing enough justice.
It has an E at the end.
I know, right? It's throwing me off too. But he's an awesome kid, man. Like, you know, just wound up in a bad situation, and fortunately we keep a lot of like cores and things like that in our shop. We do a lot of 2J stuff. It's what I enjoy. So I keep cores. Some of my customers, you know, like it helps them with like turnaround times, lead times, things like that. Like, or like, you know, a car comes into my shop and I don't want to tear it down and have a dead car in my shop while someone's building it, you know. So I could build it, then they could take the car and once it's ready and then, you know, work on the car or whatever it is. So I just happen to keep like a really large selection of 2J stuff at my building and cores and things like that. So
when I'm in Vegas sometime, I'm gonna have to come by your machine shop and see all your cars and stuff. You keep telling me all these stories, and I'm like, 1,600 horsepower GTR, what? Like, that sounds crazy, terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just kind of figuring out. I've been through some phases, you know, like got into a little phase where I was like into like kind of supercars and stuff like that. Not for me. I don't really like the attention that it brings, and you know, like, I don't care. Like, there's just not an experience like drifting, I guess, right? Like, especially some of the high speed, like the general, like it just doesn't feel the same. Like my GTR is pretty scary, but you know, it's again, it's like not a car I enjoy driving. It's kind of bulky, it's heavy, all-wheel drive. Like,
I've never been into those.
I don't feel like I'm in as much in control of the car. I get a different experience drifting, you know, and I've been looking for things like Replicate It that aren't like, you know. I think like when you get burnt out on something, you lack motivation. You're trying to find ways to like justify going to the track and drifting. But like in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna break stuff. I gotta change tires, like all this stuff. And you start thinking about like all the cons, and you're just like, yeah, kind of talk yourself out of it. And then with some of these other cars, I'm kind of like, okay, I just put gas in and go, you know, for the most part, you know. And then like finding good shops to help me with things, it's hard. Like you have to sift through a lot of bad to find good sometimes, you know. So like getting help with things, you know. So I got into some other cars thinking like I could kind of get my car fixes without, you know, drifting, outside of drifting, and exploring other avenues. And it just didn't work out for me. Just nothing really measured up. And to be honest with you, like I'm not sure where I'm at. Like I think when I get back home, obviously Vegas Drift, local events, I'm always going to support local events. I'm always going to show up. I'm going to drive. And I'm going to take a Corvette. I'm going to finish up some of these other cars. I'm going to start focusing on me a little bit more, and I'm going to drive. And I'm going to get some laps and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, if I would, how much I'm really going to drift after this without the journey. And that's why it's like you talk about things like Driftweek 5. It's like, dude, where do I sign up? Because if I can have the journey with it, yeah, exactly.
I'm joking.
I have the as long as the journey comes with it, like that's the experience. So I'm still to be determined, like how things will unfold once I get back, and how hardcore I'm really going to be into, you know, drifting and things like that. So I think at some point I have to find time for myself, and I think that's the hardest thing is I keep myself so busy with work and kids and family and everything it's hard to find time, you know, to do everything and to be everywhere. So like I said, finding time for drifting and stuff like that's tough. But like I said, this has been fuck, man. This has been an incredible experience so far, and there's still a couple days left. So yeah. I can't wait to get out on the track tomorrow, burn a couple more sets, and it's gonna be. It's gonna suck when it's over, man. I can promise you that. It's gonna.
The next one comes up insanely fast. Cy, my cameraman, can attest to that. These things are 6 months apart, and it does not feel like there's any time, especially because I have to do all the planning and stuff.
Oh yeah, you got your hands full. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and share some experiences with us. Anytime. We have an entire lot of like 50 drift cars here behind us that you can't see them all in the shop, but we're in a beautiful location. You have an entire house or mansion, I guess, which we just discussed as a gender-biased term. It should be like Persian.
Oh, like a gender neutral.
Yeah. We're in a new time period. So anyways, tons of cool drifters
Ovation.
here from around the world. Go meet some people, have good conversations, have friendships.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. All right.
Huge shout out to all the sponsors of Driftweek, starting with BC Racing Custom Coilovers, who support more grassroots and professional drifters than any other coilover company. Thank you to WhatMonstersDo.com for supporting all of our content for so long, including our Japanese content. Use the discount code EBISU on their website for a discount. Thank you to NK Wheels. They make so much cool stuff, all the way from my drift wheels all the way up to F1 wheels. Thank you to ECU Master for supporting grassroots guys all the way up to the best driver in the world, James Dean. Thank you to Y-Play Imports. If you need a rad right-hand drive car from Japan, hit up Trenton at Y-Play Imports and get them before the prices get too high. And thank you to Drift HQ for bringing in that support vehicle. And congratulations on everything that you've been doing this year, Drift HQ. You are killing it.